Now, if you were someone who bet on Cordero Patterson coming back this week, good for you. But if you were like Jarvis and me, you were not betting on Jeff Okudah coming back this week,
Mhm.
right? We really thought that with that injury, 4 weeks was probably the safest expectation to maybe see him come back in week 5. Well, got word, confirmation that both Jeff Okudah and Cordero Patterson are at practice today. And those are both good signs because if you're at practice on the day when installs truly start to get up and running, that's a great, great sign. Now, it'll be interesting to see because, of course, we get the injury report after practice. It'll be interesting to see if they were limited in their practice full participation. I would expect limited today and maybe full tomorrow and or Friday. But Jarvis, just on the surface, how important or impactful could it be to get Jeff Okudah and Cordero Patterson back for Sunday?
To be honest with you, I'm gonna start with Cordarrelle Patterson because I believe that he's the one that's more likely to play. Because when you
Indeed.
think about the certain moves that they made, equal bouquet, my guy,
Mhm.
Godwin. So he got released. So when you think about because Cordarrelle Patterson is going to be a kickoff return, right? And he was
Yes.
Eagle Bouquet was back there returning kicks on Sunday. So you kind of like okay, you kind of put two and two together. Like the math is going to bore out to Cordell Patterson being on that field on Sunday.
Right.
With him being out there, I really feel like that is like I think that we're going to really find out what a joker position, right, and what does that mean on the offensive side of football. It's been used on the defensive side of football, but we haven't really seen it used on the offensive side of the football. So I think that he's going to be another weapon, another piece that Arthur Smith can use in order to throw the defenses off because I like how Arthur Smith in his offense, he works a lot of formations, a lot of 12 personnel. We saw a lot of 13 personnel on Sunday. I'm waiting for the 14. He said he was going to do it. He said it's a possibility. T. I asked him personally. I was like, hey, man, you going to throw some 14 personnel out there? Oh, no, we might do that. So, Arthur Smith, like I think the creativity is going to be there when you have a guy like Cordell Patterson because he can line up at wide receiver, because he can line up at running back, and hey, he can line up close to the line of scrimmage because he's a little choky too. Hey, he can put his hands on you. He's willing to block as well. So it's so many things that you can do when you have a guy like Cordell Patterson in that lineup. I just think there's going to be something that Arthur Smith can have fun with. Like it's
Yeah.
another toy in the toolbox.
Indeed. And I think for CP as well, in addition to what he can do in the return game, if he's
Yes.
lined up as a receiver, maybe he can give you some of those blocks that you didn't quite get from Drake London last week. And so, like you said, him being more of a stout
Oh,
guy, he could kind of give you something
got to get
and
him involved,
maybe
T. I'm gonna give him make one excuse for him for this year, no more for the rest of the season. You got to get him involved.
yes, you do. And that's what I was going to say. Maybe if he doesn't have to focus on blocking, maybe that'll give him an opportunity. If you put CP out there as a decoy or slash a blocker, maybe that'll give
Mhm.
Drake London an opportunity to get his hands on the ball a little bit more. Because to your point, it's not his fault that he was only targeted twice and caught one ball. Like you have to be targeted more than 2 times in order for you to get more than one catch in all
Mhm.
likelihood. So yeah, I think that Cordero Patterson would be the more likely to come back this coming Sunday, and B, because of that, he'll probably be the most impactful. But if Jeff
No
Okuda
catches on
happens,
Sunday. No catches on Sunday. He didn't
yeah.
get any catches on Sunday. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yes, that's
no
right.
catches.
So,
Right, yeah.
and if you look at
Because
Jeff,
Desmond Ridder had one more catch. A reporter, I ain't gonna say his name, asked Arthur Smith about that after the game. So I'm just like, all right, bro, what we doing here? But anyway, yeah, continue. I'm sorry for interrupting.
it's okay. So with Jeff Okuda, now, of course, probably sitting at a 40-60 chance for him to come back, mostly 69. But if he
Hmm.
actually does get back on the field, even if in limited situations, how important would it be to get him back, or impactful would it be to get him back?
Oh, it'd be great. I mean, because we saw the secondary look pretty doggone solid on Sunday. Like when, outside of, Bryce Young having a little bit more time than normal to throw the football, we saw those guys out there covering. AJ Terrell looked solid. Even Trey Flowers, he had a couple moments here with some penalties that were very questionable. But I think overall he played pretty solid. And then you had Mike Hughes who was out. So I think that if you get a guy like Mike Hughes back, you get a guy like Jeff Okudah back. You talking about that secondary that we were saying that had the most depth on the defense from a positional standpoint, right? So I think right now, if Jeff Okudah comes back, I really feel like we're gonna get a good picture as to what Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith and Ryan Nielsen, what they all envisioned when they brought all these guys in.
Yeah, I would say the same. And yeah, I thought that they definitely did a solid job without Jeff Okudah. And who knows, they may actually have a less than perfect Packers receiving core than what the Bears had to deal with. Because, of course, right now, we'll talk about it more tomorrow because we'll have more information about whether or not Aaron Jones is closer to being a go or not being a go. So some of that can actually work in the Falcons' favor. Not that you ever want anyone to be injured, but just in terms of if you can go one or two more games without Jeff Okudah and make sure that he's truly back to 100% because you feel like you have enough in the secondary that you are putting on the field now to be able to handle the Packers, then I think you hold him out that one more week and just let him get as close as he can to 100%.
Yeah, I mean, because like you can afford to do it, right? Because it looks solid with him, with Jeff Okudah not being in there this week. It was fine. And like, hey, you can bank on that for at least one or two more weeks, or however long Jeff Okudah is going to be out, because we still don't know, like how y'all get away with this type of stuff. But anyway, but yes, to your point, I think that is something that, the Falcons can afford to let them sit a little bit. Like,
yeah,
Cornell Armstrong sitting right there ready to go in the back end.
Yeah. And I think too, if you get what you need up front, then that makes it easier on your secondary anyway. And that's something we will definitely dive into tomorrow because, we definitely have to talk about a very daunting task that both the defensive front, look, the whole defense has a challenge coming up with the Packers this week, but we'll dig more into the defensive front and what they have the biggest challenge for them. Now, speaking of that, scheming can always be an interesting thing, right? Scheming from one week to another. And, some people, especially in the first half, some people were booing that Arthur Smith was calling too many vanilla plays, that things were not complex enough and they didn't like his play calling. And in the second half, people seem to be more comfortable with his play calling. Also, Ryan Nielsen was called out a little bit for the first half because people were not understanding what's up with all these substitutions, right? And then he tweaked some things in that second half that really slowed the Panthers down. So when you look at a high level, the schemes, if you will, do you maybe see, other than the tweaks that you make from week to week for the Packers, my question is more of, do you see changes in the schemes based on, hey, we've now been able to see Desmond Ridder this season in action. So we kind of know if we can throw some more stuff at him. And then on the defensive side, okay, we saw that we threw some people out there to see what they can do. And now that we can see what some can do and some can't, that might inform us on schemes as well.
Yeah, I definitely think the latter is true. When you talk about what the Carolina Panthers were able to do in that first half. And I talked about how, like, they look like a preseason offense in that first half of the season, because you saw Chris Lindstrom getting handled by Derek Brown. I know a lot of people were pointing that out and getting concerned. Calm down. That guy showed me from day one that he understands how to recover. He knows how to make necessary adjustments. And you saw a little bit of it in the second half of that game. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that they're going to be handcuffed like they were in that first half, because I know Rashawn Gary is a solid edge rusher and everything like that, but he ain't no Brian Burns. Right. Brian Burns gonna make $25 to $30 million a year annually. The way he played last week. And then Derek Brown is just an absolute man. I know Kenny Clark is solid, but he is no Derek Brown. Yeah. So I think just for those reasons, for the defensive front that they're going to be going up against, I don't think they're going to be probably closer to the second half of that game versus the first half of that game. Because here's the thing. Like, Arthur Smith is not going to put Desmond Ridder in a situation to where he can make mistakes. He's not going to do it. I promise you, folks. He's not going to do it. He's going to call plays accordingly. Now, you may or may not like that, but that's kind of what it is, because he is trying to do what necessary is to win games. Because I even go back to 2021 when he first came in. They could not run the football. They just couldn't do it. So that's why they dropped back to pass, and because they had a guy like Matt Ryan, who's a veteran, and he can slang that bad boy. Yeah. Now, the offensive line wasn't all that great, but he had to do what he had to do to try to win some games. They ended up winning 7 games, throwing the ball all over the yard, and teams knowing that, hey, this team can't run the football against us. So yeah, we're going to defend the pass. So I think that it's a chess match. It's going to be a week-to-week thing as far as what this game plan looks like and what Desmond Ridder, as far as how many passes he's going to throw. Will he throw 18 or will he throw 15 or will he throw 25? I think and I think the answer to that question is, okay, can Green Bay hold up against the pass? They got some guys, pretty good doggone players in that secondary. So, hey, guess what we're going to do? We're going to do what we do best, and that's run the football.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that running the football is still going to be their bread and butter at the end of the day. I do see, like you said, that Desmond Ridder probably won't hover around 15 passes, if you will, probably get more in that 20-25 range. Yeah. But ultimately speaking, I think that now Arthur Smith and Dave Ragone have seen what they needed to see out of Desmond Ridder, because I think that's the critical piece. Even things like, okay, maybe, you drop back to pass and you didn't see that rush coming, and then you kind of made a rash decision on where you threw the ball, but then give you a whole bunch of credit. Bijan Robinson couldn't catch the ball where he did to go 11 yards for the touchdown if you didn't see him out there by himself to say, oh, okay, that's where I'm going to go. So still he's able to get to that line of scrimmage and still have better vision that's improving week by week. So I think that's why they might throw some different wrinkles in there this Sunday, because maybe they've seen enough for him to say, hey, now we can add to the playbook for him coming up against the Packers. But let's hear from you guys. What do you think about CP coming back this week every day? Or do you think that's possible? How do you think it's going to impact the game? What about Jeff Okudah? Are they okay? Are the Falcons okay if he doesn't come back? Or do they need him to come back now because of all that we saw in that 38 points that the Packers put on the Bears last week? Don't forget to put the comments in our comment section on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to download ATL Day Ones wherever you get your podcast.